it time for illegal ham in the face? But bro, where's the banjo?
Some Cleveland sports shows try to give you hot takes, but only one can give you a big old piece of hot ham. Welcome to Illegal Ham to the Face. Talking all Cleveland sports. And don't forget our Fat Boy Tuesday, where we also ham it up with some fun food topics. Without further ado, let's serve up some ham. Here are the Ham Boys, Fatty, and Big Bry.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Illegal Ham to the Face. I am that fat guy, Jared Fatty Bates. He is Big Bry. What is going on, big fella?
Living the dream, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing good. A lot better than last week. I want to thank everybody that had reached out to me personally last week. Bri, you were one of them. For those that do not know, my stepfather passed away last week. Ended up going back to Lima for some services for the family and everything. I got to shout out my sisters, Jenny and Jess, my mom, my other sister, Jocelyn, was there also. All the grandkids, all the family that was there, had a huge turnout. But he is the reason why I am a Browns fan and being punished every year as a Browns fan. So this show is kind of a tribute to him tonight. We're going to have a fun top three at the end. We're going to have a good Fat Boy Tuesday, and then we will get into obviously Browns talk, because that's kind of the huge thing right now, Bri, is we are a week away from the draft. And we are also a week away from, actually, I think it's next week they start, Cavs start playing playoffs. So we got a huge show for you tonight. Brian, thank you for reaching out and talking to me personally too. I appreciate that and means a lot to me. And I just wanted to apologize. Obviously, we couldn't do the show last week because of everything that was going on, but I wanted to just thank everybody that reached out and everybody that messaged. It was very nice, and I greatly appreciate it, and thank you all. All right, Brian, do you have any shout-outs you want to get through this week?
Yeah, I got a couple shout-outs. I told you before we got on here that last week my mom had a successful knee replacement surgery, so she's laid up for the short term and doing good, though, recovering quickly. So yeah, I went over, had some dinner with her, and she's doing good. So that's the first shout out. Second shout out is yesterday would have been my dad's 70th birthday. So so we kind of celebrated that. Passed away in 2008, but still think about him all the time. And you talking about your stepdad kind of being the reason that you're a Browns fan and a Cleveland fan, and certainly that was the case for my dad and I. And we just had so many great memories together, shared so many games, World Series, NBA Finals, going to together. Even took me to an Ohio State Michigan game down in the Horseshoe, and I was like 13 years old. And I'm dressed head to toe in Michigan gear at 13 years old. And he warned me. He's like, "You don't know what you're getting into." I'm like, "Dad, I got this. I'm a big kid. I can handle myself." And so the joke is I learned all sorts of new vocabulary that day.
I bet you did.
And he made the mistake of, he was wearing just this innocent blue Lambs Inn jacket. And so everyone just assumed, because I was wearing Michigan stuff, that he was a Michigan fan too, because he had his blue Lands End jacket. So he was catching some grief too. But yeah, he was ultimate Browns fan. Season tickets we had growing up. He would go down to, my aunt and uncle lived down in Cincinnati, so he would go with my uncle to Bengals games, and he was a big Bengals fan. So my dad, when he would go down there, he would leave little dog bones on people's windshield. So when they turned their windshield wipers on, these dog bones would go flying everywhere, and just kind of messing with them. So we definitely shared a lot of bonds through sports, and that's why I grew up playing sports. I grew up loving sports. Him and my mom were at all my games growing up. So So yeah, it's pretty special. And one last story. After I graduated college, I moved back home in like 2007, and that was when the Indians made I want to say, was it ALDS or ALCS? And they had this game. It was against either the Mariners or the Red Sox, where we fell down like 11-2 or something like that. And this was late. This was like seventh, eighth inning. So I was like, well, this game's over. I'm going to bed. And so I go to bed because I had to wake up the next morning early. And I go to bed. When I wake up the next morning, on the inside of my door was this little Post-it note. And it said front and back, told me the Indians came back, won the game, and explained exactly how they did it. Well, this guy got a hit in the 9th. This guy homered in the 10th or 11th. So, like, he stayed up and watched the whole thing by himself. And I'm sure he was just chomping at the bit to wake me up and celebrate with me. But he kind of harnessed all that energy, and he sat down and he wrote it all out for me. So this was the day before, back before we had cell phones and smartphones, and the first thing you do is go to ESPN.com in the morning. So I had no idea. So I wake up and to this, and I was just overjoyed. So that's kind of a special story that'll stay with me forever. So, yep, yesterday was a special day for us.
I would have loved to meet your dad, Bri. He sounds like
big time golfer. Like, we used to always tease him because he would get up to the ball and he would just sit there for like 10, 15 seconds and just not move at all, like a statue. So we'd always used to joke around with him, like, are you okay? Did you fall asleep there? What's going on? So he had fun with it, though. He would always, he couldn't hit it as far, but he would always joke with my brother and I that, the name of the game is the short game. And so we'd hit it 100 yards past him, and he would always somehow end up beating us because his short game was impeccable. So, but we had a lot of fun.
Oh my God. You got to meet Jeff. He came out to my diaper party. You said the first thing that you remembered was him wearing a Trent Richardson jersey. And he was so excited about that. And next thing you know, the next year they traded him for a first-round pick, which probably was one of the best picks that ever happened to. But yeah, it was. I remember that because I laughed so hard because we were at Razzles and everybody came in with diapers and we were at the pool table playing. And next thing you know, like, not even thinking about it, because my dad and him got along, pretty good. Like, they really did. But to watch both of them sit and start playing the jukebox together and just start picking out songs, I was like, all right, here we go. This is awesome. So,
you just, you see a fellow Browns fan, especially at a bar. In this case, not everyone in Cleveland's a Browns fan, but I saw him sitting there watching the draft intently. He had his Trent Richardson jersey on, and there was just that instant connection. Like, oh, what do you think the Browns are going to do with this next pick? And so, we sat there talking Browns for probably half an hour, just kind of hanging out. So yeah, that was my one and only experience with him, and it was a great one, a positive one.
One more thing before we get in the show. I remember, so in his basement, dude, he had Brown stuff everywhere. I mean, it was the 87 Browns poster. He had football signed, everything else. The one thing that always got me was he had a 6-pack of beer, and it was a dog pissing on the Bengals. And this was the big rivalry. It was before, like, Pittsburgh really got bad. It was like him and his buddies, because he had 2 buddies that were Bengals fans and he had 2 buddies that were Browns fans, and they would travel to both games. They would go down to Cincinnati for the game. They would come back to Cleveland for the game. And he bought that 6-pack of cans as a gag for his buddies in Cincinnati. And seriously, it is just a picture. It's all orange and brown, but it's a dog just pissing on a Bengal. And I loved every minute of it. I remember that. I laughed so hard when I saw it. I'm like, what kind of beer is this? He goes, yeah, you probably don't want to drink that now. He goes, but back in the day, like, he got it back from like 1980s, man. It was like 82 or 83 he got it. So, yeah, fun stuff.
Oh, they used to make, and this was even maybe before my time, but yeah, in the 80s, they made like a Browns beer. And we have home videos of all of us down at my aunt and uncle's in Cincinnati, and my grandfather taking out this this box, this Browns beer box, and putting it on his head just to kind of razz my uncle, who was a big Bengals fan. And so, yeah, it's always been a fun rivalry, I feel like, between the Browns and the Bengals. It's not like, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, we kind of, we have a little bit of hate for them. But yeah, Browns Bengals has always been fun, at least in my family, because I have family that's down there, and we kind of enjoy razzing each other.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. All right, Brian, you want to get into our show, start doing some trivia?
Yep.
All right, our trivia is brought to you by City Dogs Cleveland, where you can adopt a beautiful puppy as soon as I find a picture like this face right here. Go out and help out a city dog if you can. Please adopt, volunteer, or donate. We would greatly appreciate it. Look at that face, Brian. How can you say no to that face? And also, I believe in June, they are doing the 5K. Also, May 31st, Bry, is the Bark in the Park, the Mac for the Mutt, Top Dog Tailgate at WJ Lodge in Berea. So mark that on your calendars. We have been invited, Bry. Big Boy has said, he goes, hey, you guys need to come. You guys haven't been here in a couple of years. So we got to start making an event. So we will try to make it for that. And cornhole, they got a whole bunch of other stuff. Flip Cup is what they're known for too, which, Brian, I am not the greatest at, but I can play some cornhole. But go out.
I'll carry you in Flip Cup. You carry me in cornhole.
Sounds like a plan. I love that idea.
A deal?
That's a great deal. All right, let's play our trivia. Brian, you were doing trivia tonight, and here we go.
Yep.
And once again, our trivia is brought to you by City Dogs Cleveland. Help out a city dog. All right, Brian, what do you got for me tonight, bud?
Well, since it grows more and more likely that we will be, and by we I mean the Browns, will be selecting Travis Hunter with the second pick. At least that's what a lot of people believe. I'm looking for the last time a wide receiver was drafted with a top 2 pick in the NFL draft.
I know the answer to this already. I think I do.
And who was it? I'll give you X bonus points if you can tell me the year. But who was it?
I don't think I could tell you the year, but I can tell you who it was, I think.
Okay.
All right.
Well, then maybe I'll make that the trivia. You got to tell me the year.
You're a dick.
Now, we'll see. I got a couple of them. And honestly, this is kind of just off the top of my head. So I could be wrong. No, I could be wrong if you can come up with somebody, but I'm pretty sure I got the last one correct.
All right. So Justin's in here. He loved cornhole. So Joe Thomas was on this week's Cleveland Marathon podcast. And let's see here. Shout out Home Infusion Services. Next one is this Friday. That's a great shout out. Then we also got James in here.
What's up, James?
Mother Nature can't really make up its mind right now. Brian, I had shrapnel falling on me today at work.
Maybe some snow overnight, I think, in some areas at least.
Hey,
sorry.
If that plow goes down, I get a $5 scratcher. Should I just put it down on the plow?
Oh, absolutely.
Justin said it's almost Kentucky Derby time. And Danny is on here. Are there any sport teams in the state of Alaska, in the United States, that compete in the NBA, MLB, NHL, MLS? I don't believe so, but if there was anything, it would probably be the NHL.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm surprised. Probably just because the distance, but it's no further than Seattle to New York.
No, I'm sure Anchorage could have a team, right?
Yep, absolutely. Juneau?
Yeah. Justin said it was windy here. Power went out at work. Yeah, it was. We had rain. We had rain, and then snow, and then rain, and then shrapnel, and then more rain, and then more shrapnel. It was a crappy day today here in Cleveland.
Started out nice. At least where I was, it was sunny all morning.
We had clouds, but it wasn't bad. And then, man, once that wind whipped off the lake, holy cow. It was beautiful. It was 72 degrees yesterday, Bri. I mean, I got a sunburn. I got to deal with this today. Ugh.
This is April. Maybe even parts of May.
All right, well, Bud, let's get into some Browns talk. Let's bump the Cleveland headlines. Well, Brian, the draft is changing every minute, every week, every day of who we are picking at number 2. I think we've had 6 different people now that we're picking at number 2. It's getting kind of ridiculous, but the one great thing, Bri, is guess what, bud? We are wacko for Flacco. Joe Flacco is back in Cleveland. You got to get excited about that, Bri.
Yeah, he's better than Kenny Pickett. So if that's what you're asking me, do we improve our quarterback room? I believe so.
You know what I loved is Kenny Pickett still going out there saying, "No, I'm competing for the starting job. I'm competing for the starting job. I'm competing for the starting job." Like, okay, I'm glad they told you that, but buddy, they can tell you that, and I don't think you are. I think it will probably start out Joe Flacco as a starter this year.
Well, I just yeah. So if they really truly wanted Kenny Pickett to be the starter, I don't understand why they would bring Joe Flacco in. Because let's go back like a year, maybe a year and a half. Like you ask every Browns fan, who are your 2 most hated quarterbacks in the NFL? Probably one would have been Deshaun Watson for a lot of them, and 2 would have been Kenny Pickett. And so the reason they didn't bring Joe Flacco back is because they knew how popular he was with the fans. And so they didn't want all that noise in the quarterback room with the fans, game day just chanting for Flacco. And so so now that's the same case. Browns fans don't like Kenny Pickett. He hasn't done anything for us. A lot of us see him as a terrible Steelers player. So the fans are 100% on Flacco's side. So how could you ever have a quote unquote competition and say Pickett is now our quarterback? It's the exact same thing is going to happen. As soon as Pickett starts to struggle, even maybe the first incompletion, people are going to be losing their minds for Flacco. So, I unless there's something I'm not really reading, I don't see how you could ever start Kenny Pickett over Flacco. The fans would absolutely go berserk. And even if we take the bias and the fandom out of it, we could start having a conversation on who's better between Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Yeah, but Flacco just had such a magical. It was a Disney story, and frankly, it's something that I don't think can be repeated. But in Browns fans' minds, they think he's Tom Brady when he went to the Buccaneers. That's kind of how they view him.
I mean, Bri, he did win Comeback Player of the Year. He beat out a guy that died on the field. How does that happen? The guy died on the field and came back to play football, and Flacco beat him out. I'm just excited because at least it gives us a path of where the Browns are going at quarterback now. It gives us
but only for a year.
I get that, Bri. I get that, but at least it's a path. Like beforehand is like, are we handing Kenny Pickett the keys to the kingdom? Okay, we've been arguing for the past, well, not last week, but past 2 weeks beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
Are we drafting Shedeur Sanders at 2? Well, Brian, this kind of solidifies that I don't think they're drafting Shedeur at 2. I think they're going to go best player available or trade back. And Travis Hunter keeps coming up. Travis Hunter. Week before, it was Abdul Carter. Week before that, it was Shedeur. Brian, I don't even know what they're going to do, but I'm happy that we have a true veteran in here that actually knows the system, did well in the system when he was here, and can maybe teach baby hands something. I mean, I think they're going to have a competition, and I use that in quotes because it's going to be, we're doing a competition, see who's going to be a starting quarterback, and then unless Kenny Pickett just blows their mind and is just miles above Joe Flacco, they're going to give it to Joe Flacco. And at that point in time, Bri, yes, it is a Band-Aid on the leak that is the Cleveland Browns quarterback room. But you could also say you have a veteran in there who has been to Super Bowls, playoff games, has seen everything. You could draft somebody later, dare I say, our 33rd pick or 32nd pick, even later than that if we have to. But it leaves you room to go get the best player available at 2. And if you don't want the best player available at 2, you can trade back. A lot of people are now – I heard Anthony Lyman today. You should be happy about this. Talk about trading back and getting the defensive tackle from Michigan.
I've said on here before, I'm not a huge Mason Graham. I think he'll be good. You know, he's a safe pick, but I don't think he's going to be like a Jalen Carter. You know, that honestly, I think a better value for the Browns is going to be the other Michigan defensive tackle, Kenneth Grant, at 33. He's not worth a top 10 pick, but I think he's going to, him and they're not really similar players, but I think they'll have kind of a similar impact. And I think Kenneth Grant would be a good one at 33. But getting back to the Flacco stuff, there's part of me that thinks this is just kind of the Browns throwing the fans a bone. And the staunch Flacco people will think I'm just being a hater, but I think the Browns looked at this and they said all the terrible PR that we got from Deshaun Watson, and after striking out time and time again on any other potential quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, who knows if they're ever really interested in Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, they're just asking too much. I think this is like, well, we're backed into a corner. At least we can make our fans happy. Let's get this guy. Maybe he still has a little something in the tank, but at least our fans will be happy. Nobody's going to be coming for us and telling us we're doing a terrible job because we got a fan favorite for him. You know, here's your shiny present. And the analogy I kind of think of is, you know, remember growing up, I was a big Transformers fan growing up.
Oh, God, yes.
And so my favorite Transformer was Bumblebee. You remember Bumblebee?
Oh, yeah.
He was like the little yellow bug. And so loved him growing up, always had an affinity for him. But then as I got older, you know, once I started to drive, kind of the cool car to have, and we're about the same age, so you too, I'm sure, it was the Ford Mustang. How cool was the Ford Mustang, like in the mid to late 90s? So like I think of like your parents saying, well, son, we can't get you a Ford Mustang, but here's this Bumblebee? 1980s 87 yellow bug. And you're like, well, I've always loved the yellow bug, you know, I'll take it. You know, and you get so excited for the yellow bug, and everyone else in your class is driving Mustangs and like newer cars, maybe not the coolest car, but like newer cars. But you're so happy because you have this yellow bug, and everyone else thinks you're a loser. Everyone else is kind of making fun of you behind your back, but you think it's cool because you really like. There's no other teams. 31 NFL teams would it wouldn't even be a blip on their radar. They would probably, you know, if they said, okay, you can go into next season with Joe Flacco as your starting quarterback, there would be a revolt. They would start calling for heads. But Browns fans think he's got this magic sauce at 42 years old, and you know, I understand he's a fun guy to root for, but again, he's teeing off on the 18th hole. What's best for the Browns organization is for Kenny Pickett to take the reins and to run with it. He still has his whole career ahead of him, but there's just so much emotion involved in these two quarterbacks. We absolutely love this one guy, you know. And if we can be honest and we can have an honest conversation, you go back and look at Joe Flacco's 5-game run in the regular season. Who did he beat? He beat Trevor Siemian. He beat Justin Fields. He beat Trevor Lawrence, who everyone thinks is, you know, garbage. You know, he's beating like these not great teams, not great quarterbacks. And then we finally run into a halfway decent one in the playoffs and we get our doors blown off. And it's, you know, a lot to do with how he played. but Browns fans just wipe that from their memory, and they say, well, yeah, but he had these great 5 games. And so if I can, I'm the analogy king tonight. If I can bring it to another analogy, you go out with a girl for 5 dates and they're great. And then you just break it off. A year later, a year and a half later, she calls you and she says, hey, I got kicked out of my apartment. I need a place to stay. Can I come move in with you? And you say, oh, absolutely. We had so much fun those 5 dates. Come on in. I'm committing to you. You move in with me. Like, that's what the Browns are doing. The Browns, it was a fun run with Joe Flacco, but now you want to, are you committing to him? Is him being your starter? You're saying you're our guy? Those 5 games are great. But last thing, and then I'll turn it back to you. The Browns could be evil geniuses here. And how they can be these crazy evil geniuses, they're giving the fans what they want, but that might also mean getting what they want in the long run. Like Joe Flacco could go 3-14 again, and we get the number 1 overall pick. That's not out of the question. Joe, this guy is 42 years old. I know he has a great arm, but he's 42 years old, and no other team would sign up for Joe Flacco as a starter. So the fans could be really happy, and he could still get us the number 1 overall pick. So it's like, and get Arch Manning or whoever they really want next year. But I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's just going to be interesting to see how the support for Flacco, either grows. If he's playing great and he has us in the playoff conversation, he's going to be next level loved in Cleveland. But it's hard for me to think that a 42-year-old, I know because Tom Brady did it one time, no other quarterback has ever really had success 40-plus years old in the history of the league. So it's hard for me to imagine, Joe Flacco, the league gave up on Joe Flacco 5 years ago. Once he left Baltimore, he went to Denver, and then he flamed out in Denver. And after that, everyone's like, all right, this guy's just not a starting quarterback anymore. But Browns fans think he is. I don't know if the Browns front office does. We'll see.
And Brian, I agree with you that they kind of threw the fans a bone. I think if they really wanted to throw the fans a bone, they would have brought back Nick Chubb already. I think that would have been.
They need to.
And I think that would have been, all right, guys, we messed up. Even if Flacco was out of it. The one thing I do like about Flacco being here, Brian, though, is – and Flacco is 40, not 42. I don't even think he's 40 yet, but we'll figure that out.
He's 4. I thought he was 41, but I thought by the start of next season he'll be 42. But I could be wrong.
And fact checking, he is 40 years old. He turns 41 in January.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, we got a 40-year-old quarterback, not a 42-year-old quarterback. Shoot, cheers to that. Maybe I'm all wrong about Joe Flacco.
Well, the one thing I do like about what they did with Flacco, all right, they got 2 backup quarterbacks on the cheap right now. All right, they got Kenny Pickett, they got Flacco. Now, granted, Flacco's incentives can go up to like $13 million, but right now it's 1 year, like $3 or $4 million. What I like about this, though, Bri, is now we are not looking at them trading away assets to get Kirk Cousins, who I believe is just another Joe Flacco right now and would come in here and not change anything. So I believe now I'm still upset that they gave up a damn pick for Kenny Pickett, but we'll get into that later. But I think if they wanted to throw the fans a bone, they would have already got Nick Chubb in here, and Nick Chubb would be our running back. Now, granted, he doesn't have to start, but he would be here. And, man, when he hit the field, everybody would go nuts, and you know they would. But I agree with you, though, that with Watson and everything else that happened beforehand, you couldn't bring Flacco back. Bringing him in here now, he's not going to be the same. And, yeah, Justin, I get leadership, locker room respect, and I get that. That's also why definitely they kind of had to kick him out of here, too, because that was going against what Deshaun Watson was at the time. But the great thing is, guys,
Bernie Kosar would give you leadership, locker room, and respect.
Yeah,
he just can't play in the NFL anymore. So it's not like that's the only thing that mattered. No, you got to still be able to play.
But the one thing I do, like you said, well, it was a great 5-game run. Bri, it wasn't too long ago that somebody was hanging on a half of a football game for somebody. You know, I'd rather take 5 games and then a half of a football game.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you know why I was doing that. I was trying to convince myself that this guy we paid $230 million and we committed to for 5 seasons is actually going to be something. If Joe Flacco was 27 and we had him locked up for 5 years, I would make every excuse in the book for Joe Flacco.
The great thing is like the actual signing, Brian. I don't know if you knew this or not, but seriously, like it had to be 18 hours before they signed Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson put out another video on Instagram of him working out and trust the process and all that stuff. And it was like Andrew Berry went like this. Hold my beer. I got this. And we're going to sign Joe Flacco. This guy has got to realize he's done here in Cleveland, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he's had a couple, I guess, you know, I'm not on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but he, you know, he's putting out stuff from what I hear that, you know, he's talking about, let him doubt me or, you know, I feed off of this stuff. Yeah, he knows he's done in Cleveland, you know, in all likelihood, his career's done. You know, he might have to wait 2 or 3 years before a team gets desperate enough to call him. So, yeah, he's an afterthought for the Browns at this point. It's all about what are you going to do in this draft and what are you going to do in next draft to find the fans a franchise quarterback. Joe Flacco's fun. We can celebrate it. Some people celebrated it like LeBron James came back to the Cavs in 2014. I hear people on the radio. Hey, welcome. You know, thanks for calling in. Where were you when you heard the news that Joe Flacco was coming back? I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, is it this big a deal? Is this life-changing moment like when LeBron came back? But you know, in a franchise and a fan base that has pretty much everything gone wrong for them for the last year plus, you know, this is something that fans can celebrate. So,
right, this isn't even a year plus. This is like 30 years now.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. You know, let's not forget we went to the playoffs a couple years ago. But yeah, just 3-13, the whole Myles Garrett saga, the whole Deshaun Watson saga. Like, there hasn't been a whole Nick Chubb, you know, getting his knee tore up. There hasn't been much at all for Browns fans to celebrate. So this is something, you know, if you want to go ahead and think that this is a huge deal, I'm going to try not to pee in your Cheerios, you know, even though I kind of am. But I won't. I understand Browns fans celebrating this. This is a positive.
All right, so Brian, obviously we'll talk draft next Tuesday. All right, and obviously everything has changed. We have been bounced around of taking Travis Hunter, then trading back into the first round to get Shedeur Sanders, taking Travis Hunter and getting Jackson Dart. You know, it's been a crapshoot, Bri. I want to ask you before we get into next week, and we'll really dive in next week of what we actually want. But Bri, is there anything that they can do at number 2 that will truly disappoint you as a fan?
I don't think so. I've kind of, you know, I've been around, you know, just because they've talked about, okay, this week it's this guy, this week it's this guy, this week it's this guy. I've kind of talked myself into, and I think the 3 options that you've mentioned earlier, Hunter, Carter, and Sanders, I think I've talked myself into each one of them being, you know, good for this franchise. And I still wouldn't mind trading down if we can get a first round pick for next year. But yeah, not really. I mean, unless they crazy reach for somebody that we're not even thinking about or talking about. But yeah, I've in the back of my head, and it made sense to me based on what the Browns were saying that it was going to be Travis Hunter, because everyone was calling him a cornerback. The Browns were calling him a wide receiver. And I think, to me, that's because the Browns are angling, you know, it's easier to sell a wide receiver at number 2 than it is a cornerback at number 2. So I think that's
But
why the Browns have always been selling him as a wide receiver.
But the thing is him, his agent, everybody else in his camp is saying he's playing two ways. And
Right.
that's the one thing. I'm not saying that he is. And the other thing is like Mel Kiper came out and said, this is the best grade I got on anybody since John Elway. He is.
Yeah, but
and I hear.
I wonder if that's because
Kiper.
he's grading them as two separate positions. Like, okay, you're a 98 here and you're 95 here, so let's add those two together and take the average. You know, that has to play into it because he's not the best cornerback to come out since John Elway. And he's not the best receiver to come out since John Elway. So, you know, it definitely has to do with, well, he's the Shohei Ohtani of football, and he can be very good at two positions.
Well, and also a lot of people have put him in around like Malik Neighbors aspect, like Marvin Harrison Jr. Like that's where they're kind of grading him out as a wide receiver. Now, Bri, if he wants to play wide receiver and play wide receiver, that's fine. The only thing that I get scared about is if he wants to play full on both ways. I don't think he can do full on both ways. I think if you're wanting to use him as a cornerback, you have got to do it on like a third down passing down. Like send him out there to cover a slot receiver or something of that nature. If that's what you're wanting to do, if he's wanting to play both ways, he cannot do it consistently. I don't think he can. I don't think his body can handle it. He already did it all through college, Bri. And your body can only take so many hits. And I'm not saying that, you know, he might be the unicorn because everybody's going to blast me for this. Like, why are you talking down about this guy? Blah, 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 blah. It's not any of that. It's just your body can only take so many hits. And once that last hit you take, would you rather take it as a top wide receiver or a top corner? And that's kind of like the limbo that he's in because I still don't think that he would be a number one wide receiver. I still don't think he is a number one cornerback. Now, would he be a solid number two? Probably. But I just don't. He's athletic. I'm not saying that he's not elite, but he's not elite at one. And everybody's telling me that he's elite at wide receiver and he's going to be one of the next great wide receivers. Well, if that's the case, why did Colorado not play better? Because mostly you get an elite wide receiver, they can take over a game. And I'm not saying he hadn't taken over games, but you had a top quarterback prospect plus him, and you could only muster up so many wins. I mean, what do you think, Bri?
Yeah, I'm with you that that my biggest concern about Travis Hunter is durability. And, you know, if he was 6'1", 6'2", 220 pounds, I wouldn't have as many questions as I do. Dude's 180 pounds, and some people think he's even lighter than that. And I think I heard Tony Grossi say no player has ever been drafted in the top 2 under 200 pounds. So he's a frail guy, and I know you know. Look at you and I. And any human can put on weight relatively quickly, relatively easily. But we're talking about right now, and I look at him, and I don't know really how the measurables stack up between him and Jerry Jeudy. But I look at him, and I think he has like a body type of a Jerry Jeudy. So for us to have like two kind of frail, slim wide receivers, that causes me some concern. And, you know, I don't believe he's had many injury concerns up to this point in his career, but the NFL is just a different game. And so, yeah, that's the real issue I have with Travis Hunter is even if he just plays wide receiver, I have some concerns about him getting through 17 games. But you're telling me he's playing both sides of the ball? Yeah, that's going to, you know, intensify my concern for if he can make it through a full season. So yeah, I think, I don't know. I'll let the Browns, if they draft him, figure out what's the best way to split his reps between offense and defense. It sounds like, from what I've heard, it would be almost easier for him to be defense and then moonlight as a guy, wide receiver on offense, on passing downs, whatever. But I almost think he could do kind of both. Why do we need him out there on first and second down on defense? I don't need him trying to tackle a Derrick Henry, in an open field. No. He's just he's gonna get flattened. And so put him out there when it's third and long, and he can cover guys, because that's his specialty. So, there's part of me that's concerned, because everyone talks about how he's a great cornerback, and he's like an elite cornerback and a very good receiver. And so we're going to play him mostly on offense, and we're going to lose out on an elite cornerback that's in our locker room. So it's just going to be all about finding that balance. Like I said, I just, his weight, I wish he was a bigger body, like a Jamar Chase or something like that. He's not huge or anything like that. He's not a Marvin Harrison Jr. by any means, but he's a stockier guy. He's a thicker guy. So if he had that kind of body type, I wouldn't be quite as concerned. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they decide. Like I said, I think from everything they tell you, he's a wide receiver. And I think that's kind of maybe a PR slant to try to make it more digestible for the fan base. Browns fans. Okay, yeah, if we can get a Jamar Chase at 2, that's not too bad. But we get a Sauce Gardner. Like, who's really that excited about Sauce Gardner with the second pick? Even though he's a great player, he just doesn't move the needle like a superstar wide receiver does.
No, and I get that. And, like, Brian, I asked you the question, and you said there's really not anything that would disappoint you. I wouldn't be upset if they drafted Travis Hunter. I wouldn't be upset if they did Carter, if they traded down. I wouldn't be upset. The only thing that would disappoint me is if they did draft Sanders, because I don't think at 2, especially with this quarterback room, this quarterback class in general, I think that you could get a Shedeur Sanders in the 3rd or 4th round. I don't want them to reach for a quarterback. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm with you, and partially because I'm with you is the reason I haven't wanted them to draft a quarterback at all this year anyway, because I think next year's crop is going to be better from everything I heard. But, part of me just wonders, what has changed about Shedeur Sanders is basically what the media feeds us. Like, there's nothing that changed from January. He hasn't done anything from January till right now to make us think any different of Shedeur Sanders. He hasn't done anything. But the media's, how they put it out, they've kind of like almost convinced us, like, yeah, he's not worth a top 15, top 20 pick, maybe end of the first round. And so it's just so hard to like distinguish what is truthful and what is just the narrative that either the media or certain teams want to put out there that this guy is no good. Is he a second round draft pick or is he a first round draft? I don't know. I'm just going off based on what people have told me. So, and we see it, maybe not with quarterback as much, but with a lot of different positions. If you're drafted in the second round, you can still be a great player. You can still have a Hall of Fame career. So, you just got to get somebody in there to develop them.
Before we move on to the Cavs, Brian, the one thing that would disappoint me about this draft is if they did a double trade down.
Okay. How low are you thinking?
No, if they trade down from 2 and then trade down again.
Right. So like to 20 or to 30 or to 15?
I think it would be in the 20s. Okay. I think they would trade back probably into – I don't think they would trade back out of the top 10.
Right.
If they do trade back. But, Bri, a double trade back down into the 20s, like, hey, Bri, if we're sitting there, hey, if they double trade back and we get pick number 22 and we draft Shedeur Sanders, I'm going to lose my shit.
No, that would be great. We get a double trade
Really?
back, and we get Shador Sanders at 22 when we were thinking about taking him at 2, and we get all these extra assets. We still get the guy that we were considering at 2.
Yeah,
That would be phenomenal.
Because pick 22 has been so great for us.
Well, yeah, 20, yeah, just because that terrible number. If that's what you're saying, then I would
Brady
agree.
Quinn, Johnny Manziel. Let's just add another one to the list.
Isn't that crazy? Well, he'd probably have to be at 20 because I think the Steelers might take him there at 21. But for me, it all depends. It all depends on what you get. If you trade down to 8, you get a first-round pick next year. And then you trade down from 8 to 18, and you get another. So you have 3 first-round picks in next year's draft, which most people consider to be much stronger than this year's draft.
Yeah,
you can convince me for it. But you also said that you would be. I don't know if you said if this is an exact quote. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but them punting on this next season may be the best thing for the franchise, and just try to get as many assets as you can.
If they were going to do that, I wouldn't have signed Joe Flacco. I would have kept Kenny Pickett right there.
Well, like I said, the Flacco's the bone to the fans, and he might give you the same output as Kenny Pickett. At least the fans will be happy.
We got our boy Evo from the Lineman Lounge said, you got to take Hunter. You already have a Super Bowl winning quarterback on the rosters last spot, so go get him some weapons.
Two Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
Evo said, love you guys. He said, up to the coaching staff to keep him on the pitch count through the years, save his body until you get him to the postseason. And I can see that too. Man. And by the way, Brian, they invited me back for the oh crap, they probably haven't announced it yet, but I'm going to announce it anyways. Depends on who's watching the show. They're doing their 23rd of April, Wednesday night. They're doing their 8:00 show on the NFL draft. So it's a mock draft with a whole bunch of people. So by the way, you're going to help me with that.
So you're the Browns representative? You're picking for the Browns?
We get a blind draw of a team.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you could be – are there 32 guys doing it, or how many teams
I don't think so. I think we get a couple teams, and they kind of roll through it. So we get like 2 or 3 teams. But, yeah, it's fun. It's like a little mock draft thing. I would love you to be part of it because you would have a blast.
I would. That sounds right up my alley. It sucks that it's Wednesday at 8 because Thursday I go to Pennsylvania, so typically an early morning for me.
All right. Well, just throwing it out there for you.
We'll be in contact. Yeah.
All right.
I can't. Well, when do you find out who your teams are?
I don't know yet. I guess we'll find out here this Wednesday, I think.
Right. If you find out and let me know ahead of time, I'll try to steer you in the direction.
All right,
that's something we should do. Maybe write it down, or I'll write it down. Areas of need for the Browns. Maybe we can talk about next week heading into the draft, because there's a lot, obviously, but other than quarterback, obviously we know quarterback is the biggest need, and that's a no-brainer. But after that,
running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line.
If that's what you want, yeah.
I mean, it's all of them, Bri. There's a need.
That's why I said that's why it's going to be a challenge to narrow it down to the top 3.
All right, we'll do that next week. God, I love you. All right, let's talk some Cavs. Playoffs start. They got the number 1 seed. By the way, everybody kept calling Jared Allen soft. He played 82 games this year, Bri. Dude, that's a feat, though. 82 games.
Is that so? And did I hear he shot 70% this year?
Yes, he did.
Unbelievable.
All right, so we got play-in games tonight. All right, and
yeah, right.
So we have Orlando, Atlanta. Who else is in there?
The Heat and the Bulls.
Heat and the Bulls. So we get one of those 4, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So how it goes, and I don't know who plays tonight.
Magic and the Hawks.
Magic and Hawks. So the winner of that game is the 7th seed.
They play
the loser. Yep, and then the loser of that game plays the winner of the Heat and the Bulls.
Okay.
So you have, and then they play whenever Thursday, and then whoever wins that game, that's who we play. So we won't know who we play until the next set of games. So but people are talking about who do you want to play, who don't you want to play. Hawks and Magic are on right now.
I think if we don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, especially being the number 1 seed, Bry, is a huge disappointment.
Absolutely.
Huge
I totally agree.
Disappointment. But if I had to pick one to play, just for shits and giggles, it'd be the Miami Heat. I think they would give
over
you
the Bulls. I'd probably pick the Bulls.
I think Miami would give you the toughest matchup because they're kind of like a gritty team.
No.
Oh,
I think Orlando. Orlando took you to 7 games last year.
Yeah, but Orlando's been banged up and they don't have anybody, and I don't know.
They still got Banchero, who might be the second best player in the series.
That is true.
And the Wagners.
How
could you forget about the Wagners?
Oh my God! Here we go.
You know where they went to school?
Oh yeah. They had a piggyback over there. Place they could get into school. All right, Bri. Well, let's hope the Cavs can get to the Eastern Conference Finals. If you did, you want to pick the Bulls. If you had to pick one of the 4 teams, you want the Bulls.
Absolutely. Yep. Magic, like I said, 7 games last. The Hawks beat you a couple times this year. I know they did it with DeAndre Hunter, who kind of gave you fits, but I still think Trae Young, he has the capability of going off. And then the Heat, they lost Jimmy Butler, but they still have Spoelstra. They still have Bam Adebayo. They still have guys with playoff experience. I just feel like the Bulls, Hero, Duncan Robinson, another Michigan guy. The Bulls they're young. They don't have any experience. Their coach is young. I'd be surprised if they won 2 games, but and a familiar foe for us. So, if you're the Cavs, you should not be scared of any of these teams. You just play who you want to play. You shouldn't be, rooting for one or the other.
Now, Brian, I'm going to ask you this question before we get into Fat Boy Tuesday, because this is me personally, because this team has taken the Indiana Pacers, who is in the playoffs now, with their 3rd string, not even their backups, their 3rd string, taking them to the overtime, have taken them to a very competitive game. Bri, I know that most of the time when you get in the playoffs, you tighten up your starting lineup. You bring it down to 8, maybe 9 people. Do you think that Kenny Atkinson will open that up a little bit and get to like 10 and 11 because of how good this bench is?
Well, I think ideally that's what he wants to do. 9. I wouldn't say 11, but 9, maybe 10. I think is what he would want to do. But if you're winning, you can do that. But if you start losing, if it's a tied series, if it's 2-2, or God forbid you're down 1-2 or 2-3, he's going to absolutely tighten that up. So I think as long as we're even, as long as we're winning, you throw 9 guys out there. I think that's what he wants to do. But if you're trailing and just wait till the Boston series when you have to have your A+ game, you're going to see it tighten up to probably 8, majority of the time 7. But, I could see an 8th guy playing, 8 to 10 minutes a night or something.
No, I seen a lot of guys contribute. I mean, after the 5, I mean, it's Mitchell, it's Garland, it's Mobley, it's Allen, it's Dean Wade or Strus. Okay. You got DeAndre Hunter. You got Ty Jerome, who has been fantastic. You also got to throw in Merrill, who is a 3-point assassin. DeAndre Hunter.
You said Hunter.
I did say Hunter. Okay. Take it back, DeAndre Hunter. Isaac Okoro.
Tyson. Okoro, yes, definitely.
So there's 10 guys right there that you could play that would give you solid time. And then Jalen Tyson. So Brian, I think that he could go 9, maybe 10 deep on this bench and save his team until he gets to Boston, and then tighten it up a
Yeah,
little bit.
definitely. Yeah, it all sounds great, and I'm sure that's the plan. But again, as long as they keep winning, as long as they're not threatened. If they start feeling threatened, if it's tied 2-2 and you're at a game 5 at home or something, and you feel like it's kind of like a must win, then yeah, I don't think Sam Merrill's seeing the court a whole lot. I think maybe he might even cut Strus's minutes to very little, or he's such a streaky player to where I feel like either Strus or Okoro, depending on matchup, won't get a ton of time, or even Dean Wade. If
I agree with
Mobley and
that.
Allen are staying out of foul trouble, you might not need Dean Wade really.
No, I agree with that, but Dean Wade stretches the floor pretty good, though.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So much of the minutes are going to be about matchup for the series.
Yeah.
So
No, I get that.
if one team runs a bunch of small guys and quick guys, then you might not need Dean Wade. But if they're bigger guys, then you're going to need his size.
All right, Brian, you ready for our Fat Boy Tuesday?
Let's do it.
Let's make a quick Fat Boy Tuesday, and we'll get our top 3 and finish up trivia.
And now, it's time for Fat Boy Tuesday.
All right, so it's quick Fat Boy Tuesday tonight. Now, Bri, my wife brought this question to me, and I'm going to bring this question to you. Okay, you have your choices. You have A and B. Choice B is one movie to watch for the rest of your life. Choice A is one food to have for the rest of your life. Which one are you choosing, and what are you choosing?
Okay, so I have one substantial question. When you say choose a movie, is that the only television I watch? Is that one movie, or that's the only movie? If I choose to watch a movie, that's the only movie I can watch. But I can still watch sports and stuff.
That's the only thing you're watching.
So when the TV is on, I watch that one movie. I would probably choose one movie for the rest of my life then.
Okay.
I think you could develop, you can find other habits to do other than just watch TV or movies. Even sports. I guess sports would be tough, but you could always listen to it on the radio or something like that. Or, that would be tough missing out on that. But, food is something you do every single day. How could you eat the same food every single day of your life? So yeah, I'd probably have to choose a movie. What about you?
What movie would you choose?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it'd have to be something. Oh boy, I was not prepared for this. I feel like it'd have to be something to put me in a good mood.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to watch It the Clown or a scary movie or a depressing movie. I would need like a comedy. Something to put me in a good mood. And so I would need a comedy with some substance too, like a storyline. Not really thinking it through too hard. Probably Tommy Boy. It's always been one of my favorites. It's kind of a dumb comedy, but it still has a storyline.
It's one of those ones that you can turn on and catch at any point in time in the movie.
Right.
And you know where you're at.
And it's not too dumb, like Dumb and Dumber or, some of these other ones. Superbad's also a pretty good one. Whenever that's on, I find myself kind of watching that a little bit. But yeah, there's probably a bunch. But it'd have to be a comedy classic.
Okay. All right. So I went with your choice. Okay. I went with movie too. And mine, and I don't know why, and I could watch it all day, every day. I can fall asleep, wake up, watch it again. The movie Cars. I don't know what it
Never
is.
seen it.
The one with Tomater and Lightning
Larry the
McQueen.
Cable Guy?
Yeah, I could watch that all the time and just be okay. Like even background noise. I don't know what it is about that movie that I could just dumb everything else out, and I could just anytime it's on, I'm watching it at night to fall asleep to here in the house. Turn on, I'll watch it. I don't know what it is, but the movie Cars does it to me all the time. Now, Bri, if you did have to choose a food, what food would you choose?
Oh boy. Gosh. So if I say pizza, does that mean I'd have to have pepperoni pizza for the rest of my life? Or could I do like buffalo chicken pizza one day and breakfast pizza another day?
It's the extravagant of everything. So if you want pizza, you'd have to eat pizza for the rest of your life. But it still has to be pizza. It doesn't matter what toppings are on it. It'd be pizza.
Yep, I'd be all right with that. Yeah, I can always roll it up and make it like a roll up or a sandwich or fold it together like a calzone. Yep. If you give me the option to where I can put whatever topping I want on it, then sure, pizza.
Okay. I came up with one that kind of floored my wife because obviously, I mean, look at me. It's like chicken wings or deep fried foods or whatever. The one that got me, Brian, I had to think hard about this. And granted, I love burgers. Brian, that's why we do Fat Boy Tuesday. We love food. But the one thing, if I had to eat for the rest of my life and not get tired of it, would probably be Chipotle. And the only reason why is you can make a salad, you can do a burrito, you can do a burrito bowl. There's different.
But you're saying you're picking an entire restaurant. So could I pick Wendy's?
Me. Well, you could if you want to, but you pick pizza. Pizza anywhere else is going to be the same pizza. So, okay, let's just put it this way. Mexican food. Would that be better?
Okay.
If I put a gyro around it?
Okay. All right. I can get down with that. It might change my answer, but I don't know if it would.
James is in here with the movie Forrest Gump. All right. Oh God.
Yeah.
Great movie.
That's a
great movie.
You know, it's almost like I don't watch the entire thing very often, but it's almost like a bunch of like mini movies of him growing up.
And you know, everybody will say like the Christmas Story. Can't even say that. Brian, I think I've only watched a Christmas Story in its entirety one time in my entire life.
That's too bad.
No, it's just I wake up. Oh shit, it's back on again. And
10 minutes here. 15 minutes there.
All right, Brian, let's do our top three, and then we will do our trivia. Let me find a clicker here. There it is. Now, Brian, I'm going a little nostalgia on you tonight because I'm going off of my stepdad and things that we used to do game time for any games that we would watch, kind of nostalgia. And we're going to do our top three game time things to do. Let's just put it that way. That work? Or tradition?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want me to go first or do you want to go?
No, you can go ahead.
All right, so number three for me with Jeff, my favorite thing to do with him is we would always go to BW3's, get some spicy garlic chicken wings, get a nice tall brewski, and we would sit there and watch the Browns game with a whole bunch of Steelers fans around. Can you believe that Western Ohio has got a shit ton of Steelers fans?
Western Ohio does.
Yeah. Like Lima, Toledo.
I bet they're all Ohio State fans.
They might be Ohio State fans, but they're Steelers fans over there. Like every time that we went to BW3, it was like four of us that were Browns fans, and everybody else was Steelers.
Well, you know why? It's because they don't get the Steelers games at their house, so they have to go out to watch it. Whereas most of the Browns fans just stay at home and watch it.
Over there, I remember him calling cable stations bitching because we would get the Bengals games instead of the Browns games.
Yeah, that's messed up. Or probably Lions games even in some areas over there.
Yeah, sometimes.
Of course, they were on Fox, I guess.
All right, number 2, Bri. And I will remember this because, God, we had so much fun. He would turn on the TV, turn down the TV or mute it, and then he would turn on the Bose system in the back, and we would have Jimmy Donovan calling games. And that's how we would watch football, is he would time it up to where we would watch and just hear Jimmy call games. That's got me hooked on Jimmy when I first heard his voice. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he looked at me and goes, "We need to change our look. It's time for Jimmy." And he'd pop it on, turn it up, everything up. I loved every minute of that. And Brian, number 1 for me, and it always cracked me up with him, is we would always, first thing in the morning for any Browns game, it would be a high five, a handshake, and then we would get in the fridge and get a caffeine-free Pepsi. And we would sit and watch. We would start pre-gaming because we knew what was going on. And I will never forget that. So, Brian, give me some of your top 3, bud.
That's awesome. So my top 3 kind of for game day traditions kind of go in, what stage in my life I was. Because I'd have a tradition for my 20s, my 30s, current day. So I'll start with current day. I'm not as rowdy as I used to be, not as crazy for game day, but I usually grab a cold beer, and I have the 2 TVs set up. Thank God for my wife allows this, with the Browns game and the sound on the top TV, and then the Red Zone channel on the bottom TV, so I can kind of, if the Browns game gets too boring, or if it's on she complains that I can't multitask for anything. She's always like, "Oh, multitask, watch the baby and do the dishes or whatever." I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do that. But yeah, I'm watching 2 TVs for football, all fall long.
Hey,
so
probably
so
playing
2
a video
TV setup.
Playing a video game.
Oh yeah, yeah, video games. Or if the Browns play Monday night, I'll have the game on one, of the Manning cast on the other. So yeah, it's all about getting surrounded by the football vibes. So that's my current day tradition. Then younger days, 20s. I used to go down and tailgate a lot for the games, and a lot of times I wouldn't even go to the games. I would go to maybe a couple games a year, but I go down to the Muni lot. Good friends that go down there and tailgate, hang out with them. I wasn't the crazy one that went down at like 6 a.m, like a lot of them did, but I'd meet up with them like 9 or 10. Tailgate till about noon, 12:30, and then walk to a bar to watch the game. So that used to be the tradition there, and then. Number 1, I think back to going to games with my dad, and we used to go to the Lizard up by that was kind of our go-to spot when it was up by. Now it's moved around a couple times, but the Lincoln Lizard up by East 9th, Jacobs Field, the Q. We used to go there, grab a burger. He would grab a beer. At the time, I was too young. And then we would make that long track from there down to the stadium. And so that just kind of became our tradition. And, he had this he'd always wear this big puffy Browns, just think of like 1997, 99, when they came back. No, I had the starter though growing up. Oh. He had this big puffy like Browns jacket that was super warm. And I still have it in our basement. And it was funny because I put up our Christmas lights this past year, and it happened to be on. It was either a Browns Thursday night game or a Browns Monday night game because it was nighttime, and so I was getting in the mood. I was having a couple beers, putting up the lights, and I put his Browns jacket on, and I go and I reach in the pocket and I pull out and I see a ticket from 2007 Browns. I think it was Bills. So he still had the ticket in there, and I reach in the other pocket. He has a receipt for an 18 pack of Bud Light. So we must have done some tailgating before that game or something.
Oh my God,
'cause
that's awesome, Brian.
It's just funny that I had it. I think my wife even wore it maybe one time when she was cold to a Browns game. But still had those mementos in the pocket. So that was pretty cool. I sent a picture to my uncle and my brother, and you wouldn't believe what I just found.
Oh my God, that's awesome, Brian. Oh, that's great. Like we started laughing. We started going through Jeff's stuff, and the Indians, and I say Indians because he was not a fan of the move of the Guardians, but the Indian, the hats, the baseballs that are signed. Dude, he had, like, my sister's like, do you want some of this? I'm like, no, give it to my nephew. Like, I was there for most of this. Like, one of those balls is mine. Like, it was amazing. I just remember trips to the ball field with him. And him and I, like, when I was like 12 years old, just going downtown, we would stay next to 150th, hit the RTA, and head up to the fucking stadium. And just, it was great. So, but
did you ever go to the games at the old stadium or always Jacobs Field?
It was always Jacobs Field. Now, with my dad, I went to the old stadium, and that's when I almost got killed.
By a foul ball?
Foul ball, third baseline. I reached out, thought I was slick and I could catch it, and it hit the tarp. And when it hit the tarp, it was going like 106 miles an hour. And thank God my dad's reflexes were still good then, because he grabbed me by my ass britches and yanked me back in the seat. And I could feel the air from that ball pass my face.
Yeah, I'm sure. I believe it. Probably hear it too.
All right, let's do our trivia. Let's close out the show, Bri. So you said a wide receiver picked in the top 2.
Last wide receiver picked in the top 2 in the NFL draft.
The one that comes to mind the most is Megatron.
You got it. Yep. I believe, if memory serves me correctly, that was correct. Yep. Do you know a year?
2009.
I'll tell you, the Browns had the number 3 pick in that draft. And
Didn't
they picked somebody at number 3. 2007.
2007. I was close though.
2007. Yeah, you were close. That was the Jamarcus Russell, Megatron, Adrian Peterson, Brady Quinn draft. I remember watching that at B-Dubs in Bowling Green. So there were 2 others since 2000, and one I forgot until I heard his name today. Do you remember for the Lions? Another guy?
Oh, God, he flamed out, didn't he?
He did. I think he went to Michigan State.
Yeah. Rogers?
Charles Rogers. Yep.
Oh, shit, not sure. Brian.
What?
I can't believe I remembered that.
Oh, that was good. And so I forgot about him because he was kind of a dud. But then there was another pretty good one. It was the Eli Manning draft. So I think that was the year the Browns got Kellen Winslow. If memory serves me correct. This guy was an all-timer. I believe he's a Hall of Fame. I believe he is.
Can at least get a team.
They drafted him?
Yeah.
I think that'll give it away, but I'll give you do you want his? I'll give you his college team. Pitt.
Okay.
He went to Pitt.
Larry Fitzgerald.
There you go. Yep.
Okay.
Famously, my freshman year at Toledo, Pitt came to play and Toledo beat them. And I went home that weekend because it was a Johnny Appleseed festival, so I missed it. Tore down the goalpost, and I go to class on Monday, and the goalposts are sitting in the river right next to the stadium.
Oh,
like, golly, come on, man! I missed like the best wins in Toledo history until a couple years later when they beat Michigan in the Big House. But I wasn't super excited about that.
So you're telling me Travis Hunter might be the next one taking it too?
Yeah, so it's been 18 years Since
All right.
and Megatron was a specimen, so was Larry Fitzgerald too. These are big dudes.
I remember Rogers was too. He just flamed out.
He was skinny. He was like
Fast.
yeah. He was like taller. He might be maybe 6'3". But he was kind of skinny. But yeah, I was surprised.
That'd be a Browns draft pick right there. Is Charles Rogers.
Oh, don't say that. Well, yeah, one thing that jumped off the page to me, I don't know if you saw any of the pro day for Travis Hunter. Dude wasn't wearing gloves. I thought that was pretty cool.
No shit.
As far as I know, I think he plays with gloves, but he's probably just showing off a little bit, like saying, everyone who wants to question my skills and my catching ability because I'm a cornerback, here, let me show you.
Hey, maybe he should give Kenny Pickett some advice.
He can't make his hands grow any bigger.
I doubt that. I've seen the stretches.
And then I saw this one meme or short clip where Travis Hunter is on the pro day and he goes out like 5 yards and he does a shimmy shake. And then he goes right 2 yards. He does another shimmy shake. Then he goes left 3 yards and he does another shimmy shake. And the title was, me versus my 8-year-old nephew after 8 beers playing Turkey Bowl.
Hey, you know
I was dying laughing because that's like you just you don't really want to run a route, but you just try to like juke him out of his shoes. So you're like going laughing. You go, oh, which way am I going? And so it was totally spot on.
Hey, Bri, here's one that will get you really cracking. Hey, what's up there? And then right to the nuts.
Did you see was it Jordan Spieth who did that? Did you see that this weekend?
No, I did not, bud.
Oh yeah. My one cousin sent it to all of us.
I bet he did.
No, my one cousin said it about the one you're thinking about, like, oh, here you are. Here's your favorite golfer.
Oh, here, let me throw that up in here. Oh,
much.
What's that? All right. We're here at the end of the show. We want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We want to thank the retweets from Heather, everybody else, APK, Lyman Lounge, James, Evo, Justin. Let's see who else is in here. Eric, Danny, first time. Thank you guys for commenting.
Always thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Give us a like and subscribe on all of our socials at Hamble Eagle, at Network 216. Brian, we're at the end of the show. God bless them, bud.
Yes, sir. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America.
Well, Brian, I did forget about this one. Happy Easter to everybody coming up, which Easter is this next weekend, correct?
Amen. Yep,
right.
Good Friday coming up.
Happy Easter, everybody. We want to thank our troops, first responders for everything you guys do. And we are definitely uncorked, unloading. We're out. We will see you guys next Tuesday. Have a good one.